I took all my Eckankar in 1979-80, and I have a short story. I was in California, and then I was with someone that we both decided, well, we went to Vegas, and I saw Darwin in that big hall there, and then we were just checking out the Eckankar, and I had this idea during the seminar not to talk to any of the people. For some reason, we wouldn't actually go and meet up with the people and talk to them about it, but we were part of the seminar and the event anyway, which is a strange thing to do in a way, kind of silly maybe, but this was, I think, Vegas was 1980, and it was getting into that. I'd also, I guess, shook hands with Darwin in one of the rooms or somewhere. I don't know if it was at the seminar or another place, but okay. What happened was then we decided to journey off for that half year, and it was very hard. It was a giving up of everything that I had, and I thought I was kind of following this inner guidance, whatever you want to call that, correctly, but not really. But it was okay, an adventure, and whatever happened, we finally came around. Then back to the West Coast, and I had an experience with the when we were in a town in Nebraska with no money, no car, nothing, and we couldn't get out of town for almost a week. And we tried hitchhiking, no one would give us a ride. And we went to the church to get a little bit of help or a meal or something. It was the opening of the church, opening day of this church, and they wouldn't give us any money. We walked in right into Sunday morning service, first service they had, the opening of this church. Anyway, there was no help coming from hardly anywhere. And, this self-sufficiency idea started to really dawn on me and us. And so we went to Hawaii, and we lived various places in the Big Island and so forth. And that was that. And that was the 5 years that the Eckankar started with Harold Klemp. And I did go to Los Angeles with that event. And in a way, I'm sharing these things to drop them, dump them, get rid of them, not important, except for the experiences that we have to help us actually see and be aware. Yeah, those 5 years were very good, and I felt that things were, the whole thing was cool, and maybe as yet it wasn't totally infiltrated or whatever, but it appeared to be. So it appeared to be good, but I left that and left the Hawaii area too for a number of times. But anyway, traveled all over for 10 years. That was leading up to the fall of the Berlin Wall, which is another kind of breakdown of the old way and some kind of a doorway opening around the world. And so that was the 90s. And then 2000, I had left the Eckankar that I was in Houston and Texas, and went to Canada, another way of going away from it. Or going out without, always with very little to go on. So I know what that's like, and it's really not hard, particularly. but it could seem hard or difficult to each of us, that there's something to be held on to about anything, anywhere. Nonetheless, okay, so that brought us up to 2001 and the 9/11 events, and of course that was about the time I read, of course, DUANE talking, your history of that time, the change, and your experiences with the lot of power or whatever you were offered, and still, of course, not fully recognizing it naturally. I mean, we never really recognize the things that are really being offered to us anyway, not fully, until we go through and then go through the next set of experiences, etc. So, all right, so take another 20 years and we come up to COVID, and now we're here again with the effects of that. And we were, I know, putting out warnings, etc., way before that. DUANE's been writing on that, all these things and all these communications I was involved with here for 7 years before, and coming up to, okay, what's going on again? And in 2019, I think September, that was when whatever events happened in China really started, even though it takes them 4 or 5 years to actually come upon the real, whatever events were much more what had really happened, or that people finally starting to accept it. And then again, it's too late. It's already been objectified and formalized in consciousness, and people accept that it's a real thing. And so I think that that is all interrelated, in that sense of we're all part of it, and we somewhat it needs to be acknowledged that we agreed to that part of it, or that we are part of it, because it's part of this whole thing, which is also the worldwide wake-up call, etc. And what it really is about, why we really want to transpose, if you will, what was before, and also, or not transpose, just it's not even renovating or rejuvenating. It's none of that. It's so funny, so it's hard to grasp. But I'll just drop back to the 65, which was that one of these big openings of the door with Paul Twitchell and Rebazar coming with that segment of writings, etc. And yeah, I relate to that because I'm Paul Twitchell's age when he died, or 1 year away from it. I don't want to repeat that, but it's funny, and everything is all kind of there, and it's really pretty obvious at some level. So I'm finding myself having go back through some of the old stuff. And the historical remembrances and past lives, etc., to not to call them back and to repeat. And just my own example, like this idea I was doing the New Arc Symphony, which is to sing the new UU as create or build a new arc, or I would relate it to the Solar Research Vessel, introduced in the 2010s by DUANE, and but it's not the same thing. I'm not trying to repeat it or redo it. So that's pretty much all I wanted to really say.
Yeah, that's good, Peter. And so again, you just went over, there's if you're writing a book or whatever, that's very, very good. And yes, as long as I'm here too with the personal self and my awareness, I look over what I've been through, and there's always something else, another view. because it's very important for us. That's why we went through what we have, whatever it is, whatever event comes up, and its relationship in whatever way it is. This is what gets us to this new moment. And yeah, it would be very beneficial for those that have any kind of experiences to, again, write about their life, write about their experiences coming into the new nowness, etc., because there are a lot of people that need help. And this is where the witnesses come in. And the witnesses are very, very important. Very, very important. And this is why the real guides are contacting people, because this generates that awareness for everyone. And that's the most important. So, people have their knowledge and what have you, and they have their own truths, which is fine, but that's personal. And all life is not about truth, because that's all made up. All life is what it is, and it's to be recognized. So it has nothing to do with that. But in creation, we have that as a reference and a comparison. And again, this is what, most of us have not been taught, even through what Paul did. He was just laying out certain ideas for us to become acquainted with, just like when we're raised by our parents, and then we go to high school until we are ready to get on our own and decide to figure things out for ourselves. And so this is very real. And so, you have all these spiritual paths and all these things, meditation, what have you, that, they've just become big babysitting institutions where people just mull around and they're looking for a happy place to sit and be and do whatever, which is fine. Everybody has free will, but they are still subject to cause and effect. That's all it is. And it's not about, oh, gee, I'm a good person. Why is this happening to me? Again, it's the agitation of creation that's to wake you up to your real awareness and see that. But the personal self, of course, has its own life. So there's really two of each of us, and that's the real awareness, and to eventually recognize and have that focus to blend that in to see and be what's real. And that's a lot. That's a whole heck of a lot, but anything that you can do, and this is what I've recommended so much of the time, and very few people do it at all, is write your book. Get it out there, publish it, put it out there. See, when you're a writer, people pay attention. You can sit here and talk all day long, and it's like, okay, that sounds interesting. But when you write it and you put it out there, they see it, they read it, it becomes a reality. And this is why it's very, very important to write and rewrite. And I've experienced and understood this too. And I was out in the public for over 30 years doing lectures everywhere that I could, and setting up events, etc., and still doing it, but more so now on Facebook all over the world. And the images that Abe and I have created over the years, thousands of images in the last 10 years, they're everywhere through everything. In the books that I published on Lulu, 300 to 400 titles, over 3,000 to 4,000 groups on Facebook, etc. And these things travel around. So getting it out there. And also, it's not just about the events, but actually incorporating a real awareness with the event. Okay, not just talking about the event. It's like, for the most part, people want to save the United States according to the Constitution, and that, okay, this is whatever it is, etc. But that's just one-dimensional. You need to add to it. And so Val and I were with Sheriff Mack for a while, because I really respect Sheriff Mack, but at the same instant, I recently wrote a new group on Facebook about him, respectively, Sheriff Mack. And then it's like, hey, Sheriff Mack, it's time to wake up. So you've done this constitutional stuff a lot of your life, but it's time to take the next step, because actually it reaches a point to where it starts to go nowhere. Doesn't matter how good it sounds, how the words are arranged, because they're just words and ideas arranged in creation, and that's not it. All life is awareness. He kind of said, well, every person has their own truth, and that sparked something in me, and it's like, yes, they do, but that's personal, and that has nothing to do with their real awareness. So it's not about personal truth or any truth. And we've come through that. Even Paul talked about that, consciousness and truth. And again, that's the babysitting stages. It's not about that. That's all in creation. But really, Paul hinted at the isness, and Rebazar did too in a few places in the books, but that's a whole lot. And as we proceed with this, you see that, for the world to grasp that, even to get to their intuitive senses, is a whole lot, because people have been riveted for centuries with literalism, and this English language is reptilian language. And so to get off track and to be indifferent and to see something else and decide to recognize it and go with it, take the risk, that's huge. That's really huge, because people only, for the most part, they go to their literal self and what they've come to know and how they've been raised. So it is a good idea from time to time to go over your history as far back as you can remember and the things that have happened with your parents and whatever, and always see if there's a new view that you recognize that makes more sense than what you've been through. And that's your decision. You must decide every moment. You are the decider. No one's going to decide for you. The government's not going to do it for you. The gods are not going to do it. They don't care. They want to contain you. You are the decider. You can decide anything at all. And so have fun. Yes. Thank you, Peter.